the AI Best Business Show. Today I have with me Sean Frank. He's the CEO of Ridge, one of probably the funniest e-commerce Twitter accounts in e-commerce out there. I'm really interested to learn more. Who is Sean and what does he do? What's Ridge? Let's start with a 2 to 3 minutes about you. How did you get here? How did you become the CEO of Ridge?
Yeah, of course. First, thanks for having me here. Really appreciate being here. Ridge is a men's accessory company. We make a slim metal wallet. It comes in carbon fiber, titanium, a bunch of cool patterns and styles. That's our flagship product, but we also make knives and pens and key holders and all that type of stuff. We're a very big e-comm player. We're bootstrapped, never raised money, and we'll do north of $100 million this year. Trying to build the next Yeti, right? I think Yeti is a great success story. I think if you look up to them in the public markets, or no one's been able to achieve the success they had selling stuff to consumers in the past 10 years. How we got here? I used to own an agency business, so I was an agency guy. I had a co-founder. We did a lot of marketing stuff. Ridge was a client of mine. They ended up buying my agency. I took an equity stake. Now I run the thing as the CEO. But we have the original founders are still here. They're on the product side of the business. We have a big team of like 50 people doing a bunch of great work. So that's who I am, and that's what I'm doing.
Just in this 2 or 3 minutes, you gave me a lot of questions I want to ask. Let me start first. Where did the idea kind of come from? I know you sit with the founders. How did they come up with the idea, and why did they choose kind of Kickstarter to launch their product on, rather than a different approach to go through?
Yeah, so Daniel was a college kid. He didn't have a wallet. He was using rubber bands, and his dad was making fun of him. So him and his dad decided to make a better wallet. Daniel has a product background, right? So since he was really young, 14, 15, whatever, he was making stuff on the internet and trying to sell it. So he started with, there's a game called Rock Band. He started with like mods for your Rock Band kits, and then he got into sunglasses, he got into watches, and then he ended up launching the Ridge. So he's always been very product-centric. Now, why Kickstarter versus traditional routes? Well, it was 2012, and things just started on Kickstarter back then. It was before there was a robust ecosystem of financing. There was before there was robust, Facebook knowledge. It was really just the very early days of direct-to-consumer. So started on Kickstarter, and I think we're one of the success stories to come out of there.
For founders starting right now in e-commerce, do you think Kickstarter is still a valuable route?
I think it had a drought for a couple of years. I think from like 2018 to like 2020, it was not too hot, but there's a lot of really good Kickstarter campaigns that have come out in the past couple of years. There's the guy, he made a company called Fort, I think. They make like pillow forts. There's a lot of competitors and a lot of great people launching new products and gadgets on Kickstarter. So it's had a resurgence, specifically since COVID. There's a lot of positives about it. There's a lot of downsides about it. And if you're a first-time entrepreneur, it's harder than ever to make a physical good and ship it to people. I think, if you're going to get into the industry, Kickstarter is still a good tool, but you have to really understand how hard it is to make a physical thing and ship it.
Great. Jumping into Ridge now, you mentioned that you guys are bootstrapped all the way. How did you guys manage on doing that? Getting to the numbers you guys got to, and most of brands now, they're looking for financing. They're going VC, private equity routes. You're going fully bootstrapped. What are the benefits? How did you guys get here? Did that, and what are some of the hardships?
Yeah, we did it because we didn't know any better. That's what it came down to. I think life would be easier if we would have raised money. I think there was a couple points throughout our history where I think we were closer to failure than we realized, right? We didn't know. So the thing that without debt, it's really hard to go out of business, right? Because you can always cut back, find new ways or whatever. And when you have full ownership without selling a chunk to VCs or whatever, you can kind of control your own destiny a little bit. So, being bootstrapped gives you a certain level of resilience that you can make whatever decision you want. And there isn't a looming debt of actually defaulting on loans or whatever. but at the same time, it's challenging. 2018 was a really hard year, and really just there's a certain point where it's like north of 20 but sub 35 million in annual revenue, where like it just gets really challenging to manage cash flow. That was like the hardest year we've had, and we have really great manufacturing partners who gave us really good terms to get us to this point. But yeah, man, I mean, lesson along the way, it's like I think if I had to do it again, I would love to raise money, but we didn't have the knowledge or the tools, and there wasn't the same sort of infrastructure there is now for financing or fundraising.
And I mean, looking at it in a way, you still own a huge chunk of, I mean, all the chunk of the company, instead of giving percentages and equity to other VCs. So you're in control, as you said, but the stress you're facing and probably going to debt, and these are, I think, founders in e-commerce have to, and any startup have to weigh both benefits. You guys are growing at a huge rate. As an e-commerce startup, what are the metrics you focus on always when you're growing? What are like 3-4 metrics you're always keeping in check to keep yourself growing and not go south?
Yeah, I wish it was just 3 or 4 metrics. It feels like every day you're discovering a new nervous system. Like you're feeling different metrics every single day, and they fluctuate. I mean, at the end of the day, the most important one for us is profit per day. So we're understanding how much it costs to run the business per day, right? So your daily burn rate. And then we spend a ton of money every day, right? 6 figures a day in marketing spend. So it's like, okay, are we seeing incremental sales come from that? And do all the numbers pencil out that, like, are we in the black every single day of the business? So we call that free cash flow or profit per day or something like that. But then, that's what I would consider like a pulse. So that's like making sure you're alive. But like if you're an athlete and you're training for stuff, there's other stuff you measure, right? Like, how much oxygen are you taking in? Like that, right. Like you could consider that like your MER or whatever, like, and like how that moves up and down over time. So it's a lot of inputs, a lot of signals that you're taking into this business.
So going back, let's say I'm an e-commerce that's just starting up. So your advice to e-commerce founders, because the point of the show is I want many founders coming into the space to learn more about e-commerce or startups in general. So let's say a founder is coming new to the space. What would you tell these founders to focus on growing an e-commerce brand?
Yeah.
A more specific question would be, does product market more? Does marketing, what should I focus on? Product, marketing, what should be my main focus and metric to run by?
Yeah, and I wish it was just one thing. You know what I mean? What you realize the longer you do it is that having a good product is what gets you a seat at the table. So you can't even play the e-comm game without having a good product. We're past the days of drop shipping. We're past the days of relabeling or white labeling or whatever. It's like having something good is the bare minimum to get in, right? So you talk about product market fit or whatever. Yeah, having a good thing in the right category, that's minimum to be able to play the game. And then to actually win at the game, you need distribution. So it's like it's marketing. It's either marketing dollars given to Facebook to give you distribution, or you have to find a way to own distribution through organic channels, be that launching with an audience. That's why I think influencers launching products are going to be more competitive with the rest of e-comm in the future, because Mr. Beast can do a TikTok post, a story, a YouTube video, and get 300 million views across those, where that would cost me $1 million, right? So He has an unfair advantage going into it. So, it's like, to get you in the door to have a conversation with me, you have to have a good product, right? And then post-product, it's like, how do you get as much distribution as possible for as cheap as possible?
You spoke about giving a lot of money to Facebook, and I saw one of your tweets. You were saying that, FB quotes keep on rising. Google, you're not a fan of Google Ads. You think they're. One of your tweets, just to quote the tweet, you said that because of Google Ads sucks kind of because of privacy and what's happening, and Facebook's ads are like same thing, privacy. Where should founders go to put in marketing content, put in user generated content when Facebook has, because of Apple, have all of all of these privacy concerns. Same thing, Google. Where do you go to put out your marketing content? What's a new channel you would go to?
Yeah, so we ran into a thing that we call no new channels. We've been very early adopters of every single marketing channel out there. Very first e-comm spender on Snapchat. We spend money on TikTok. We spend money on influencer, TV, mailers. If there's a place to spend ad dollars, we've been there.
Okay.
So, for us, it's just about getting better at those channels, right? So we spent 5 years building a base. So we're gonna put some dollars everywhere, and then we're gonna figure out what works and improve on that. That's the next couple of years of us. That's our vision. But if you're a new founder starting out, right? I want to get into e-commerce. I already have a good product, so I can talk to Sean. What should I do? And what you should do is develop an audience organically before spending money, right? So it's like, where can you get organic distribution right now? So Instagram Reels, Snapchat Spotlight, Pinterest as a video player, TikTok, obviously, post on Twitter, figure out how you can get an organic audience and actually be passionate about the thing. The thing about e-comm that's so unique, and the reason why I'm in the industry is you have to do literally everything. It's you have to be an IP specialist. You have to understand how marketplaces work. You have to understand marketing. You have to understand product, all of these challenges. So you can't get into it unless you actually really want to be there. It's the hardest industry to succeed in. If you want to be a doctor, sure, that's a very difficult job. And hats off to all the doctors out there. But they can go to school. There's a school. There's a program. People pay you to be a doctor. This doesn't work like this. So anyway, develop an organic audience first. Put yourself out there. It's going to make you feel exposed and stupid a lot of the time. But you have to be a passionate leader of whatever you're trying to sell.
And it's funny how you say when you're in e-commerce, you're in the business of doing everything. And there was a All-in Summit conference happening last week, and Elon Musk was speaking, and he was asked, what is Tesla? And he's like, Tesla is a company that does everything. We do logistics, we do marketing, we sell our own product, and we manufacture the product. And this is the same about e-commerce. An e-commerce company, you're doing everything. You're not just doing one thing and focusing on that. So I like this analogy over here.
Yeah, and look, it's very hard to make electric cars, right? He has a very difficult job, but the one thing they famously don't do is marketing. So he doesn't have to run Facebook ads. So do all that. Yeah. Do all the logistics, supply chain, product, everything, but now also do marketing and do it yourself. Obviously, it's way harder to run Tesla than it is to run Ridge, but I'm just saying e-commerce is uniquely difficult, right? If you want to be a lawyer, they're hiring lawyers. Or accounts or whatever, right? So it's a very difficult field to succeed in.
You spoke about Mr. Beast earlier as an influencer. He comes out, he has a product, he's selling, he has distribution already. How do you guys deal with influencers? What are you guys strategies you're using to deal with influencers to have better outcome? Is it just more user generated content being out there? Is it specifics? What can you tell me about that?
Yeah, I mean. All of marketing is distribution, so we use influencers for distribution, right? We sponsor PewDiePie, we sponsor Anthony Fantana from the Needle Drop, we sponsor very large people, we sponsor people you've never heard of. If you go on TikTok, you'll see we sponsor hundreds of millions of views worth of influencers from thousands of people. So our influencer channel is all about distribution and breadth, trying to get as wide as possible for that distribution. Now, we don't have influencer founders. I'm not famous. None of the other guys here are famous, right? We talked about partnering with the correct influencer, giving them equity stake, having them come on as a chief creative officer or something like that. So that door is still open, that we might do that in the future. But I think it's very strange. But if you want to launch a brand, it's in your best interest to become an influencer first and then launch a brand. Okay.
That's an interesting way to think about it. And I mean, it's right in terms of, we see Mr. Beast, we see the big names, Logan and Jake Paul. They're big influencers launching products because they were influencers first, have this large audience. Once they launch a product, there's right away, if it's a good product, it's selling right away. So love that. Let's go out to the general. Amazon versus Shopify. Benefits, cons, pros of each? Where do you want founders to go build on? What's your thoughts?
I don't think it's one or the other anymore. I think successful companies sell on both. Amazon's got a really bad rap a couple of years for just being cheap, shitty goods, but they're working on improving their offering. And look, 25% of American population just shops on Amazon, right? So it's like they might have bigger market share than that, but 25% of people, it's the default search. If you want to buy something, you start on Amazon. If it's not there, you buy a competitor or whatever. So you need to be on Amazon. If I was going to launch a business today, I would start on Amazon and then try to move backwards to D2C, just because your first 100 customers will be cheaper to get from Amazon than from Shopify. I think long term, you want to reverse that so that more of your business is on Shopify than Amazon. And we say Shopify, but I really just mean a D2C cart. I think all D2C carts are essentially a back-end checkout for Facebook. That's what Shopify is. They've built a really great business. I'm on Shopify, but almost all of their traffic comes from Facebook. So it's just it captures demand from paid social. That's all Shopify is. If you have a Shopify store and you don't do anything else, you will not get sales. Now, if you have an Amazon store and you do nothing else, you could still get sales. Think about it like that.
Well, and that's really interesting. I've heard a couple of people, I guess, in the later stage speak about buying an FBA business to run on Amazon and FBA business, stay away from that. Don't launch on Amazon. Figure out the DTC company, standalone. And it's interesting how you go in and start on Amazon and reverse that and go the DTC route, which is.
Yeah, I think that'll have the highest chance of success with the lowest amount of input capital.
You're in e-commerce. What trends do you see in e-commerce now that's early and you're if I wasn't running Ridge, I would go and build in this niche, in this trend, and build on that?
Yeah, that's hard to say. I guess I would probably get into shoes just because I think you want to look for large categories without obvious winners, right? So athletic shoes has an obvious winner. It's Nike, and then there's Allbirds and whatever else. But a dress sneaker doesn't really have the obvious winner. Common Projects, right? But that's a little more niche or whatever, right? And there's a lot of really great shoe companies doing a lot of great stuff out there. I would also, if I had to start over in e-comm, I would focus on a subscription product. I don't know what that product would be, but I would like it to be subscription because it's very hard to win over a customer. You should want to get them hooked for life. So I think there's a lot of stuff in the non-alcoholic beverage space, the coffee alternative space. You see, supplements is always a huge one, but it's how do you make a good supplement that isn't just snake oil? I don't know.
Right.
So, I don't really know which categories are exploding. I think Google Trends is the best place to find that, or subreddits that are growing is the best way to find that. But dude, it's. I don't want to doom your audience out, but it's going to be a hard couple of years for e-comm for a lot of reasons I can talk about. But it's going to be a hard couple of years.
Right, and is it because of all the privacy issues we're seeing from Apple? Is it because of the stock market? Is it because of inefficiency in markets? What are the reasons it's going to be hard in e-com for the past next coming years?
It comes down to e-commerce penetration rates. So the percentage of transactions that happen online has steadily increased for the past 20 years. COVID made it go up 10 years in the future. So in 2020, e-commerce penetration rates were acting like we were in 2030. But we're not in 2030. So as COVID goes away, e-commerce penetration rates decrease. And that decrease will take a couple of years to catch up to the 2020 rates. So what that means is there's less transactions happening online than there were a year ago, right? Especially as GDP starts to contract a little bit because we're in a recession. It's just where for the first time ever, that's the definition of a bear market. The market is not growing. So no matter how smart you thought you were the past couple of years, you've done it with wind at your back, and now the wind has stopped blowing and it might be pushing you the other way. So it's just purely economic. It's just a rule of numbers that less transactions are happening online year over year. So that makes it harder to be in e-commerce, right? So even as that's what people are having success with wholesale and pivoting to brick and mortar and trying retail again. It's just that percentage of transactions is happening it's growing on that side of the business. So
Right. So like you just said, brick and mortar isn't going anywhere. It's staying here, but you have to add e-commerce to be successful. You have to play on both. Is that kind of right?
yeah, so there's 100. It's the rule of numbers, right? It's a game theory or whatever. There's 100% of transactions that happen in a year, right? Because every year every transaction happens, and it used to be that 25% were e-comm, now 20% are e-comm. That means that 5% is going back to retail. So retail has a small little resurgence. Long term, e-comm will come back stronger in 10 years or whatever. But like brick and mortar still makes up the majority of transactions, and it's going to forever.
I'm coming to my last three questions. Two questions. My first question is Fast, Bolt, all these kind of startups that want to do one-click checkout. What's your thoughts on there?
I've talked to Ryan from Bolt. I think he's a misunderstood guy in the mainstream media. I think he wanted to make a very good company, and I think Bolt has a chance of success. The problem with both of them is that they don't have consumers. So, one-click checkout is great. The theory behind one-click checkout is great. Oh, go to any website and click a button and make a purchase. But consumers still need to put their shipping address, their billing address, their card information, all that type of stuff into something one time, right? So they have to face customer acquisition on your store. They're using your store to get customer acquisition. And that's just like the main problem behind it, right? It's like the reason why it's hard to get merchants to adapt to it. I mean, the other thing is e-comm owners are incredibly conservative, conspiratorial. Like they always, because to be like, I know a lot of $100 million a year merchants, and they're all insane. Because to be successful in this industry at a high level, you have to be an insane person. So anyway, they're very cautious about any of this type of stuff. So it's really hard to win us over. And we need a clear value prop of why we're doing it, because we're essentially giving you ad space on our checkout, right? What's the benefit for us? So do I think it's going to be around forever? Yeah, probably. I mean, someone's going to win the one chip. It's going to exist. So I don't think Fast is around anymore. So I guess Bolt's de facto winner.
But,
so
yes. But I was really interested with Fast when they started. Like their hype, the hype they had on Twitter was crazy. And this is why I'm like, they started giving free hoodies, free that, free this, and I guess they went away. And I guess what you mentioned is right. I guess all one-click checkouts, they're focusing on getting with brands first. If they go and get the customer and have the customer be the consumer be their customer, and then them taking this customer and taking it to brands, this would make it work more, in a sense.
Essentially, it's a marketplace. You're building a payment marketplace on top of checkout, which marketplaces are notoriously hard. Because it'd be great if they had consumers, but you can't get consumers without utility. It's like, imagine if Uber tried to get people without having cars. It's like, you got to do both. That's why it's so hard.
Last question. You're in the space. Who are three founders in the e-commerce space you bet your money on? If you're an investor, you'll see these 2-3 founders like, I'm betting my money on them.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to be friends of mine, so if you listen to this, shout out guys. But we're in a group chat together. There's a guy, Mike from Simple Modern. He's on Twitter. I think he's destined to have a multi-billion-dollar exit. I think Mike is tenacious. He has a great product, and he wins in categories that are very, very hard to win in. I have a friend, David, from Married with Organics. They make vegan children's vitamin. Him and his wife run this business together. Destined to have a multi-billion-dollar exit. I think they're crushing it at a very, very high level. Just very product-oriented, right? And then I have a friend, Jeremy from Kitsch. Him and his wife run a company. They make women's hair ties and accessories. Once again, just diversification above all else. Very hard to beat him. So I talk to those guys every single day. Shout out those guys. There's another guy, Matt from Pella. He has a thing called Lumi as well. Check him out on Twitter. He's doing stuff in a space that nobody else is, and the space is growing very fast. Some semi-green, semi-client science, that type of stuff. Will also be a multi-billion-dollar exit. So,
I have to put one last question. How are you going to sell to Yeti and why?
Yeah, I think so. Yeti almost bought a company called Osprey Bags. That deal fell apart. That information might be public. I heard it through the grapevine from somebody, but Osprey got bought by Helen of Troy, which owns Hydro Flask, and maybe Camelback. I don't know exactly who they own, but they're a big PE hold-up group. And Yeti has built an amazing business off of coolers and drinkware, but they're mostly drinkware, 60-something% of their revenue. They launched bags. Bags have not been a hit for them, sub 2% of revenue. And they've kind of lost all passion. If you listen to like their earnings call, it's about like, we have a new color coming out, which is like just not the lead. I mean, it's very, very much public company leadership, very slow, very steady or whatever, doing stock buybacks. So I think we can build – I think we're going to build essentially a Mont Blanc competitor, right? We're going to try to own the men's accessory space, but from a durability angle. And I think they would want to add that to their portfolio. They've toyed around with acquisitions in the past, so I think they're going to buy me for $1 billion in 2026. So if that happens, we're here first.
Love that. Sean, thank you so much. This is one of the best sittings or recordings I've done. Love the energy. Love the information you gave. Thank you for being here.
Cool. Thank you so much. Talk to you later.
Thank you. Bye-bye.